Well, we have a lot to talk about today in this first handout. We're going to speak about meter, diatonic and chromatic half steps, scale degrees, embellishing tones, Roman numeral analysis, the cycle of harmonic functions, common diatonic prolongations, standard resolutions of dominant functioning chords, and secondary chords. Don't worry, take a little time with this particular handout. It's a lot of review material, and I don't expect you to grasp it all at once. Some of this will be review, some of it is meant to be review, some of it might be, well, if not exactly new, it may be the kind of thing that you might need a little refresher on. But let's begin. The very first thing I'd like to mention is this about meter, and that is the distinction between simple and compound meter. I think it's important for university-trained musicians to grasp what this distinction is. In a simple meter, the beat is normally divided into two equal parts. In compound meters, the beat is normally divided into three equal parts. There you have it. Simple meter, the beat is divided normally into two equal parts, and because of this, the value of the beat is represented by an undotted note. Compound meters have a beat that is normally divided into three equal parts. So think about this for a second. So the value of the beat in a compound meter is represented by a dotted note. An example of a simple meter would be 2/4. So 4, the bottom number, indicates quarter notes, and in the simple meter of 2/4, the beat is normally divided into two equal parts, in this case 2 equal eighth notes. However, let's take 6/8. There you have a compound meter. A couple of things there. The bottom number represents not the value of the beat, but rather represents what 1/3 of a beat is. So in 6/8, 8 designating an eighth note, that 8 means that the value of the beat is 3 times that. So the value of the beat is a dotted quarter note. A dotted quarter note. In a mixed meter, we have combinations of 2s and 3s. But the big distinction is between simple and compound meter. Simple meter, the value of the beat is an undotted note. The beat itself is normally divided into two equal parts. Compound meter, the value of the beat is represented by a dotted note, and the normal division of the beat is into three equal parts. Diatonic and chromatic half steps. This is a small distinction that I enjoy making from the very first days of music theory study. It's a small distinction, but one that I find really very helpful. In a diatonic chromatic half step, the two notes are written with different letter names. In chromatic half steps, the two notes are written with the same letter name. Let me give you an example here. A diatonic half step could be C sharp to D. Notice different letter names. Were I to express that same interval, but as a chromatic half step, I could do one of two things. I could say D flat to D natural. I could say C sharp to C double sharp. You notice how in the chromatic half step we use the same note name. Here's your mnemonic. Here's your way of remembering this. Diatonic half steps are written with different letter names. D diatonic, D different. There you have it. Diatonic half steps are written with different letter names. Chromatic half steps are written with the same letter names. The half step, as you know, is the smallest conventional interval in Western music. I stress conventional because there are, of course, intervals that are smaller than the half step. We just don't run into them a whole whale of a lot. Scale degrees, a bit of a refresher here for most of you, I would believe. We can identify scale degrees by numbers and names. Do you see that little caret marking or circumflex above the numbers? Well, when we use that caret marking, that means, that indicates scale degree. So on the handout here, you see that 1 with the caret marking over it. That means scale degree 1. So here we go. Scale degree 1 is also called the tonic. Scale degree 2 is called the supertonic, above, super. Scale degree 3 is the mediant. Scale degree 4 is the subdominant. Scale degree 5 is the dominant. Scale degree 6 is the submediant. The scale degree 7, that is 1 diatonic half step below tonic, is the leading tone. Notice how quickly I make use of what we talked about in Roman numeral 3, right? Diatonic and chromatic half steps. Anyway, back to scale degrees. Scale degree 7, that lies 1 diatonic half step below tonic, is the leading tone. The scale degree 7 that lies 1 whole step below tonic is called the subtonic. Now, embellishing tones. We can broadly classify embellishing tones as those that are typically unaccented and those that are accented. So the typically unaccented embellishing tones are the passing tone, the neighbor tone, the anticipation, the escape tone, and the incomplete neighbor. We won't really concern ourselves just now with the incomplete neighbor. If we have to talk about it later on, we will. But the ones that I'd like you to really know are the passing tone, the neighbor tone, the anticipation, and the escape tone. As for the double neighbor, that too we can take up later. Those embellishing tones which are accented are the appoggiatura. An appoggiatura is metrically strong. It is leapt into, and is then followed by motion in the opposite direction, motion by step in the opposite direction. As for the suspension, there are 3 parts to a standard issue suspension. There is the preparation, there is the dissonance or the suspension itself, and then there is the resolution. Among your most common suspensions are your 4-3. The 4-3 when it comes to suspensions. Take my word on this, that's the king of the road. The 4-3 suspension, there's the 7-6 suspension, there's the 7-8 suspension, there's the 6-5 consonant suspension. The 7-8 suspension, which resolves upward, is an example of a retardation. A retardation is a suspension that resolves upward. I think here might be a good place to break, make another movie recording here for the rest of the handout, or at least another movie recording for the next few topics. This is probably enough to digest in one sitting.